What if a simple dating game put your real life at risk? Dayan is an ordinary streamer who gets trapped in a story where ghosts, impossible choices, and real consequences collide with every decision. And the more he tries to help, the more the game pushes him to his limits and forces him to face his deepest fears. But the real question is, how far would someone go to save another person, knowing they might not survive? Stay until the end, because every choice changes everything, and the ending is nothing like you expect. On a rainy night, a young man runs toward an abandoned school. Inside, he flees down a dark corridor, trying to escape something that is chasing him. Desperate, he enters a ruined bathroom, trying to catch his breath to hide. He then notices feet in a stall and, very afraid, slowly approaches to see. Trying to steady himself, he leans on a dark figure, without realizing what it was. He turns and steps back in fright, panicking when he sees what was right there. A frightening creature with long, dirty hair suddenly appears behind him. The ghost then whispers something sinister, and the scene is filled with blood. With the shock, the young man lets out a scream and falls hard backward, knocking over his chair. But the scene changes to his bedroom, revealing that everything was just a video game. He gets up, complaining that the scare was so big it even hurt his butt. Looking at his monitors, he sees the chat making fun of his exaggerated reaction. He explains to the viewers that playing that in VR is way too scary, and introduces himself. The crowd in the chat shows no mercy, and he shouts, asking if they do not want to play it themselves. The streamer becomes indignant and asks if they want to see him pass out again on the live stream. We are told that his viewers simply love watching his suffering. We are shown his channel on the internet, where he manages to make a living as a streamer. Back to the game, he finally manages to finish it, shouting that the nightmare is over. He boasts to the crowd, saying that he found the exit on the first try, all proud. Then a viewer sends a donation, asking if he would stay if the ghost were pretty. To thank them, he does a bizarre celebration, doing a handstand in the room. He sits down again, explaining that it is not acting. He really cannot handle horror. The streamer then answers the question, saying that it does not matter. A ghost is a ghost, right? He adds by saying that if the ghost looks pretty, it is because you are already enchanted. He warns that he is going to end the live stream, but a viewer asks about a collab with Sagi. He explains that he cannot get in touch, and that Sagi has been missing for over a month. The scene shifts to Sagi, who remembered how his family supported him after he made it. Worried, the streamer says that he was already planning to visit his house to see what happened. Then he says goodbye, promising news, and ends the broadcast of the day. He tries to call, but the number is disconnected, leaving him even more worried about everything. He looks at the messages, wondering if he should call the police, and is shocked. He answers his mother's call, informing her that he was already on his way home. Then he explains that he goes out at night because of the live stream, and to avoid traffic. The young man asks her not to worry, because he will arrive at dawn and knows how to take care of himself. He hangs up and sees a notification on the PC, with a link from someone called Delete Hyun. The scene shifts to a roadside rest stop, where he parks the car during the night. He runs to the bathroom, complaining that he was almost dying from holding it in. Meanwhile, he checks his phone and is surprised to see that his friend replied with a link. Outside, he tries to call his friend, frustrated that he does not answer the call. The call drops again, and he gets irritated because the guy sent a link and turned off the phone. He opens the link and sees that it is a game on the App Store called Dujin Ghost Love. The description said to win over ghosts with love, and he finds the idea very bizarre. He remembers his friend saying that he had found an incredible game before disappearing. Then he wonders if the guy disappeared because of this game and decides to install it to see. While it installs, a huge lightning bolt cuts across the sky, lighting up the entire parking lot. He is startled by the sudden thunder, wondering where that storm came from. A warning screen appears, asking if he really wants to install and saying that it cannot be exited midway. He decides to test the game, thinking that if it is cool, he can even do a live stream later. As soon as he gets into the car, the phone notifies that the game's pairing system has been activated. On the road, a very heavy rain begins to fall, making visibility quite bad. Inside the car, he finds the rain strange, since there had been no forecast for the day. The GPS then recalculates the route, telling him to turn left in a few meters. He finds that ridiculous, since there was no way to turn left on a straight highway. But the GPS keeps telling him to turn, leaving him increasingly tense and confused. Suddenly, the device completely freaks out, giving crazy commands with no sense at all. He tries to turn off the GPS, but the button does not work, leaving him terrified by the situation. The electronic voice then announces that he has arrived at the destination, and the navigation finally stops. Relieved, he looks ahead and is startled to see a person standing in the middle of the road. In the shock, he yanks the steering wheel hard, trying to swerve away from the figure in front of him. But there is no time, and the car ends up hitting the person head-on on the road. He stops the car farther ahead in shock, unable to believe that he just ran someone over. He looks in the rearview mirror and sees the body lying there, realizing that he hit a person. Desperate, he gets out of the car and runs to the victim, shouting to know if they are okay. He He kneels beside them, trying to wake them and asking if they are okay. In panic, he grabs the phone, not knowing whether to call the police or an ambulance first. But then a strange screen appears on the phone, describing the whole situation as a game. The game then gives options of what to do, suggesting that the young woman is actually a ghost. He tries to turn off the phone but cannot, while the girl slowly gets up behind him. The ghost then asks why he killed her, leaving the young man completely paralyzed with fear. With a frightening face, she questions why he let her die, staring straight at him. She then walks toward him asking for help, saying that only he can save her. He screams in terror and falls backward onto the asphalt, trying to get away from the creature. By instinct, he knew that that was not normal, so he gets up and starts running away. As he flees screaming, the game on his phone confirms that he chose the option to run away. The ghost watches him leave, disappointed, saying that he is just like all the others. A game notification warns that the affection level decreased, and something is thrown in his direction. The game warns that her affection level has become hostile, while she screams that she only wanted to live. Another warning appears telling him to run, and the young man desperately tries to get into the car. But the door is locked and does not open at all, leaving him even more terrified. He needs to escape before she reaches him, but the creature already appears right behind him. In the blink of an eye, the ghost's hand grabs his face with absurd strength. With incredible power, she hurls him away, throwing him hard onto the asphalt. He feels a sharp pain, realizing that something pierced his cheek during the attack. Suddenly, her appearance changes, and she asks why he did not save her, leaving him confused. The young man remembers the saying, wondering if he had already been possessed by the ghost. For an instant, he sees in the reflection of her eyes an expression of pure sadness in her. A card from the game falls to the ground, explaining that he needs to win her heart. At that moment, a lightning bolt cuts across the sky, and reality seems to completely distort. He wakes up screaming at the roadside stop, with a man approaching to help. The young man feels unbearable pain, as if his bones were being crushed. The man tries to help, but he pushes him away and shouts for him to stay back, still in panic. The man goes away confused, while the young man wonders if everything was a dream. But the phone warns that he died and restarted, and that a date is still ongoing. He is shocked to see that the game created a profile with his personal information. Then the man from before approaches and asks if he is okay, calling him a student. Frightened, the young man pushes the man and runs back to the car, ignoring the shouts. Suddenly, he is back on the rainy road, without understanding how that is possible. He tries to calm himself, repeating to himself that he must only be seeing things. Then he becomes desperate, because he does not believe that ghosts exist just because of a game. He convinces himself that it is just exhaustion and that if he gets home everything will return to normal. But to his terror, the GPS turns on again, warning that it is recalculating the route. The electronic voice starts giving the same crazy commands again, repeating everything all over again. He widens his eyes in pure panic, realizing that there is no way to escape that. And there she was again, the same girl standing in the middle of the rainy road. This time he uses the brake in time and stops the car before that frightening figure. Trapped in the car, he despairs, not understanding why this is happening to him. He thinks that he did nothing to deserve this, since he never made enemies in his life. Desperate, he wonders what to do, and if all of this is because of a simple game. His phone glows on the seat and he grabs the device to see what is happening. The game says that the same scene is repeating, leaving him completely frustrated. He resigns himself, deciding that he will face this like a normal game, since he has experience. The screen shows dialogue options, explaining that he needs to increase the affection level. The young man calms down, thinking that he just needs to make the right choices for everything to be fine. But the girl bangs on the car window, asking why he ignores her and frightening him. She complains that it is unfair, and that only he can choose what will happen. The young man tries to encourage himself, telling himself that it is just a simulation game. He repeats that everything will be fine because it is just a game of simple choices, and he can handle it. Trying to calm down, he tells himself that he is good at games and that he can win. Gathering courage, he gets out of the car and offers the umbrella to the bloodied girl. With a nervous smile, he stammers, saying that he is not a suspicious person, you know. He admits that he does not know what is going on, but that he wants to help somehow. He offers the girl a ride, proposing to take her home safely. Then the game confirms his choice, while the young woman remains standing without saying anything. He thinks that he succeeded, protecting her from the rain with his umbrella there on the road. But he continues to break out in a cold sweat because the whole situation is still very bizarre and frightening. Inside, he confesses that he is scared to death and that his urge is to run away from there. He wonders if he made the wrong choice, since she does not say anything and just keeps staring at him. The young man hopes not to be punished for a bad choice, looking at her injured feet. The girl then raises her face and asks if he can really see her. He is somewhat confused by the question, but answers that yes, he can see her. Suddenly, she loses her strength and faints, falling hard toward him. He catches her in shock, becoming completely frozen at seeing what happened. The two of them fall to the ground next to the car as the heavy rain pours down. She hugs him tightly, begging him not to leave her alone again. With her face now clean, she cries and asks him not to abandon her, leaving him shocked. The two are still lying on the ground as the rain continues, and she starts crying desperately. The game warns that his choice slightly increased the girl's favorability. Her condition stabilizes, and she cries while holding on to him, gradually calming down. Lying on the ground, he realizes that fear prevented him from seeing the real situation. He wonders what kind of story she has to cry in such a sad way. Carefully, he moves her hair away from her face, wondering what happened. The girl moves back a little, and he apologizes for the way he acted before. He complains that he is completely soaked and could die of hypothermia, and asks her to leave. Back in the car, he turns on the heater, not being sure what to do now. He puts her in the passenger seat and now needs to think about his next step. With a nervous smile, he boasts about having managed to get her into the car, but he notices that the phone now says they are on a free date. He freaks out because the game no longer gives options, and he does not know what to do. He looks in the rearview mirror and sees a truck coming at high speed toward them. He recognizes the vehicle that killed him at the beginning, and realizes the danger of stopping there. Focusing on reality, he decides to park in a safe place so they can talk. He makes up an excuse to open her door, saying that he is going to fix it. Carefully, he tries to open the door to escape, but ends up slipping. The door slams shut hard, and his phone ends up falling out of the car. He falls into a very awkward position on top of her, going into total panic. The young man thinks that he is in trouble because the situation seems very wrong. He pulls away and sees the girl staring at him, realizing that this was not a simple mistake. She questions whether he brought her there with ulterior motives, leaving him desperate. He swears that it was an accident, begging her to believe that he did not do it on purpose. The young man justifies himself, saying that he does not have the nerve for that, and that he is harmless. Desperate, he says that his nickname at school was Reclusive Gamer, but she does not seem to care. He then suggests going to a rest stop because it is very dangerous there. She stares at him with a serious expression, leaving him even more nervous about the situation. He says that it is okay if she does not want to, while a mischievous smile appears on her face. The girl suddenly starts laughing, leaving the young man completely without understanding anything. She apologizes, explaining that she laughed in relief because he is not a strange guy. She thanks him for the ride and finally introduces herself, saying her name is Hayan. Then the girl asks what his name is, wanting to know who saved her. He answers awkwardly that his name is Choi Duyan, still a bit tense about everything. While driving, she thanks him again, but he says that it is just a small detour. Hayan comments that it is strange because she did not think she would talk to someone again. She confesses that, to be honest, she had already completely lost hope. With that, he gathers courage and asks what happened to her on that road. But he quickly corrects himself, saying that she does not have to tell if she does not want to. Of course, the girl reveals that she does not really know either, because she was dragged there by a man. At first, she thought she had survived, and just ran in fear of finding him. But while walking alone, she began to realize that something was very wrong. No one could see her, and no matter how much she walked, the road seemed endless. It was at that moment that she looked toward the horizon and finally understood her situation. She explains that she had died there and now her soul could not leave that place. Because of that, when he spoke to her, she could hardly believe that someone could see her. She apologizes, explaining that she felt awkward for not talking to anyone for a long time. The girl smiles emotionally, saying that just thinking about seeing her family again already makes her cry. The young man does not know what to say, while he thinks of some way to comfort her. He then asks a difficult question, wondering what she would do if her family could not see her. At that, he offers to stay with her a little longer, leaving Hayan very surprised. She feels embarrassed and asks him to at least deliver one last message to them. The protagonist looks at her with a serious and determined gaze, agreeing to help her. While driving, he wonders if she really is just a character in a game. He had many doubts, but deep down he only hoped that she could see her family. Suddenly, the phone warns that the first date is about to end, catching him by surprise. He does not understand what is happening, and the car starts braking abruptly on the road. Worried, he calls her by name, but the girl only stares back at him in silence. She apologizes and explains that it seems she only regains consciousness during the night. The girl then makes one last request, saying that she will be at her parents' house until the next day. He then suggests that they meet again in the same place and at the same time. The girl looks at him thoughtfully and asks what he thinks of her proposal. With a smile, she agrees and says that she will wait for him tonight. At that moment, the phone vibrates and warns that the midnight date has come to an end. The game calculates his score, giving 80 points but with a death penalty. His romance ranking ends up at B, and with that he gains 40 LP points. The LP shop is unlocked while the long night finally ends and day breaks. In the morning already, he drives while looking at the phone, not understanding what all that was. A tip appears on the screen and he gets irritated because it still seems like just a game. He becomes full of doubts, wondering if she really was a real person. Stopping the car, he freaks out and begs for someone to explain what is going on. Frustrated, he receives a message from his friend, asking him to go to his house. He sees this as the only clue to solve the mystery and speeds up the car. But when trying to call, the number remains disconnected, leaving him even more irritated. He parks in the garage and goes to the apartment door, still apprehensive. Entering the dark place, he calls for his friend, hoping to find some answer. He enters the dark apartment, finding it strange that the door was open like that. At that moment, he approaches the computer and sees a bunch of papers taped to the wall. The young man picks up a flyer from the table and is shocked to see that it is a missing person alert. He recognizes the girl on the flyer as Hayan, the same ghost he encountered. All of that started after he installed a simple game, without imagining the consequences. And to make matters worse, the game posed as a simple dating simulator with pretty girls. He stands in the middle of the room, trying to understand what all of that meant. The protagonist wonders why Hayan's name would be on a missing person poster. He does not understand why a guy who only stays home playing games would have this kind of thing. With a nagging feeling, he starts to suspect a very sinister theory. Looking more closely at the wall, he realizes that most of the cases were about murders. He remembers that Hayan was killed by a stranger, and that he had already seen that news. Then he wonders if people who were unjustly killed become characters inside the game. The young man picks up a notebook on the table and his expression changes as he begins to read the contents. It is explained that ghosts appear where they died and that the game cannot be deleted. The scene changes and we see his friend passed out having a nightmare with a bizarre girl. In the dream, a sinister voice warns him to hide well or his hair will show. The creature with a rabbit mask continues hunting while the scenery catches fire. The phone then shows a warning saying that the affection level is hatred and to run. The girl keeps searching for him until the young man notices a red ribbon on the floor. The creature then says that she found him, aiming at something that was on top of the table. Suddenly, a gigantic explosion happens in the apartment, destroying everything. We then see the protagonist's friend Fallen, wondering what kind of game that was. He does not understand why Duyan sent the link to such a dangerous game. Lying on the floor, he finds a note with an apology request from the protagonist. With tears in his eyes, he wonders if that was a favor request from his friend. The creature appears and accuses him, saying that because of him, all the others died. She blames him once again and the scene is filled with a lot of blood on the floor. On the screen, the message appears that he died and a red energy leaves the place. The scene returns to Duyan, who wakes up in the car, breaking out in a cold sweat and gasping from the nightmare. He recovers from the nightmare, not understanding why all this is happening to him. He tries to call his friend again, but the guy simply does not answer the phone. Sitting on the floor, he wonders what the hell his brother is doing to disappear like that. But over time, he realizes that at least he learned a few things from all of this. The first is that the game cannot be deleted, and the phone always comes back to him. And the second is that he seems to have a limited number of lives inside the game. He guesses that the 2 hearts on the profile are the lives that still remain for him. The young man feels trapped because no one would believe him if he told this story. He thinks that his friend's notebook would have more information, but there is no way to go back there. Remembering the promise he made, he decides that standing still will not solve anything. He promised to help, so for now, he just needs to move forward and see where it leads. He goes to Hayan's house, but a neighbor warns that the family moved away a year ago. She explains that the father and the 2 daughters left after the eldest disappeared. He asks if she knows where they went, but the woman says she has no idea. He goes down the stairs thoughtfully, wondering if the neighbors do not know that she died. He becomes frustrated because coming here was useless now that the family moved. His plan was to find the family so they could see her, since she only moves at night. At that moment, he calls his mother, informing her that something came up and he will not be able to go today. The person on the phone complains, saying that he promised and that his father and brother are already there. He insists that it is urgent and promises that he will go tomorrow without fail, looking at the poster on the pole. The young man hangs up the phone, apologizing, ignoring the calls from the other side. He thinks about the clues, remembering that his friend's ghost appeared during the day, unlike Hayan. With that in mind, he looks at the poster, wondering if she could move if the body were found. The best thing to do, he decides, is to meet Hayan at night and ask everything. He gets into the car thinking that if they find the body, the family will be contacted. Time passes quickly, and the clock already shows that it is almost 3 in the afternoon. Lying in the car, he worries about finding nothing and ending up disappointing the girl. The scene changes to night where Hayan waits sitting on the edge of the road. She tries to ask for help from a passing car, but the driver completely ignores her. But she smiles because she knows that he will come, since they promised to meet. Hayan waits confidently, telling him not to rush because he would arrive there soon. The scene changes, and we are shown a flashback of someone running along the road in the rain. It was Hayan herself, crouched on the asphalt, crying completely alone and helpless. She lifts her face with a crying expression, and Doyeon asks if she is okay. He arrives with an umbrella, apologizing for the delay and explaining that he slept too much. The young man realizes that she is truly crying and calls her name worriedly. The game then warns that the midnight date has begun, and she confesses that she thought he would not come. He apologizes and hugs her, promising that next time he will arrive earlier. Back in the car, they continue along the road, but he remains quite tense about the situation. She says that she is embarrassed about her appearance, and he asks why she is like that. He tells her that he went to her house earlier, leaving Hayan very excited and curious. The girl asks if he talked about her, but the young man becomes awkward about answering. He then reveals that her family moved away a year ago, leaving her quite disappointed. With a sad look, she apologizes for having made him go there for nothing. To break the mood, he suggests going to a convenience store to talk better. He suggests calling her parents, and if that does not work, going to the police. The young man assures that he will help her, while she remains quite nervous about the situation. She thanks him for the help but says that she wants to ask one small thing first. The girl then questions him, wanting to know why he is trying so hard. He thinks about telling the truth about the game but knows that he cannot say that. With an awkward smile, he tries to stall to think of a good excuse for her. But suddenly his phone beeps, showing a strange notification from the game. A timed question appears, forcing him to choose an answer very quickly. The timer runs, and he panics without knowing what the hell to answer. In desperation, he chooses the first option, saying that it is because she is his type. She is a little surprised by the answer and gives a shy and satisfied smile. The girl asks if he has a ghost fetish, but he denies it immediately, all flustered. He explains, embarrassed, that he only wanted to help because he saw a pretty person crying. She blushes a little at the compliment, and he tries to hide what he just said. The girl seems to accept his answer and then starts to talk about something else. She asks if he did not take her on purpose near a motel. Suspiciously, the GPS warns that they have arrived at the destination, and he is shocked by the coincidence. He stops in front of the motel, and the girl accuses him of having sought the place on purpose. The young man apologizes, and she explains that she needed to be sure that he was trustworthy. She says that some people help just to ask for money or worse things later. Right. The girl thanks him, because without him, she would probably be kicked out of there again. He immediately denies it, saying that he never thought about that, but she laughs and says it was a joke. The young man asks her to stop teasing him, but the girl just gives a little smile. She confesses that now she feels more at ease because he does not seem to be a bad person. With a smile, Hayan tells him to forget it, because she was just talking to herself. They arrive at the store, but the young man realizes that the place is already closed. He admits that he did not think about that, and suggests going somewhere else for now, but the girl suggests that, instead of going back, they move forward and look for shelter. She points to the motel, saying that there they can protect themselves from the rain and talk. Already in the room, she throws herself onto the bed super excited, while he watches her smiling. He jokes asking if she went there just for the bed, and she explains that she missed it. She says that she only saw an endless road, and that what she missed the most was a bed. The girl invites him to lie down as well, but he becomes very awkward about the invitation. He blushes a little, but tries to hide it, looking to the side without knowing what to do. He takes off his jacket and explains what he learned, that ghosts with bodies usually disappear during the day. The young man then shows the flyer he found, saying that she has been missing for 2 years. He says that he called the missing persons center, and they confirmed that she is still missing. With that, he asks her to tell exactly what happened on the day of the accident. She explains that, to be honest, she does not really know what happened that day. The girl was returning home after work, walking down a dark street. Suddenly, a car at high speed ran her over hard and fled the scene. When she regained consciousness, the accident had already happened, and she was lying there. A drunk man got out of the car and started calling someone, looking desperate. Then, while she was still alive, another masked guy slowly approached. And before she could react, the man strangled her until she completely passed out. She remembers that the man put her in the car and took her to some unknown place. The girl recalls that the man had a rose tattoo on his right hand. From inside the car, she saw an abandoned warehouse and some containers outside. Hayan tries to remember something else, forcing her memory to the maximum. But she apologizes because she cannot remember anything else from that night. He asks if she knew the person, but the girl confirms that she had never seen him before. The young man concludes that the accident was because of alcohol, and the guy got rid of the body. He then has a plan, suggesting searching for abandoned warehouses on satellite maps. The protagonist stands up determined, saying that they will catch the criminal together. He asks for her family's contact, but the girl says that she does not remember it offhand. Hayan gets a sad look, thinking that a lot of time has already passed since then. She wonders if the family has already given up looking for her, afraid of making them suffer, but the young man assures that this will not happen, leaving the girl surprised by the answer. He explains that the family moved because they could not bear to live there without her. And to top it off, he says that the neighbors said they were very close. He says that just by hearing the story, it is already possible to know that her family misses her. With a confident smile, he assures that he will help her even if things go wrong. She is touched by his attitude, realizing that he truly cares about helping. He apologizes for the trouble he caused, but thanks her for trusting him. The game warns that his actions increased affection, and he suggests sending a message. He shows a profile that appeared on the phone, asking if that was her father. The girl gets super excited and lunges toward him, wanting to see the phone up close. She ends up knocking both of them onto the bed in a very clumsy and funny scene. The two stare at each other for a moment in a somewhat strange and romantic atmosphere. She starts laughing at his face and asks why he is so heavy, teasing him. Hayan continues teasing, saying that his ears are turning red. Embarrassed, he nudges her away. He points out that her eyes change when she teases him, and she laughs awkwardly. The young man warns that he is going to take a shower, because he feels dirty after 2 days in the rain. He suggests thinking about the message to her family, and the girl agrees excitedly. The girl throws herself onto the bed again, saying that it has been a long time since she felt comfortable. With a smile, she confesses that she has fun teasing him, and that she loves the company. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, the young man thinks that he wishes the morning would never come. He takes a hot shower, trying to relax and forget the bizarre situation a little. Suddenly his phone starts ringing, and Hayan looks curiously to see who it is. The call is from Saki-hung, the missing friend, leaving the girl confused. The scene changes and we see his friend, begging for someone to answer the phone. A flashback shows the friend completely bloodied, terrified of something in front of him. A bizarre creature with a spider-like body crawls toward him, leaving him with no escape. The monster questions him, asking why he ran away if they had a date. With a terrifying face, the creature insists on knowing why he ran away from her. Back in the present, the call is not answered, and Hayan asks if it was important. He says that everything is fine, and that the person will call back if there is nothing wrong. The scene changes to the protagonist's apartment, where the TV is on playing an old movie. Hayan looks at him from the floor and asks if he is really okay sleeping there. He explains that he sleeps on the floor sometimes because he sits for a long time and his back hurts. She then asks to ask a few questions, wanting to know more about his life. Hayan asks if his family has any lineage of shamans or something like that. The young man gets a bit embarrassed by the question and immediately denies it, saying no. He explains that he is a game streamer and that he never had any connection with the supernatural. She is surprised to learn that he started seeing ghosts suddenly, and he confirms it. With a smile, Hayan says that then she is the first ghost he has ever seen. The girl says that she wants to visit his apartment because she is curious about his live streams. He gets embarrassed but agrees to invite her as soon as they solve her problem. She then asks to ask one more question, leaving the young man curious about what was coming. Hayan asks to see him again tomorrow, but when he looks, she has already vanished. He stands up and calls out to her, but the girl has truly disappeared from the room. The phone warns that the date is over and starts calculating his romance score. He gains 60 LP points, and a strong light illuminates the hotel room. The scene changes, and we see Duyan arriving at the door of home, as he promised his mother. He feels pathetic for having created expectations, while his father stares at him with disdain. Thinking of leaving quickly, he types the password and opens the apartment door. Upon entering, he comes face to face with his father, leaving him completely frozen. The father asks if he has been doing well, but the atmosphere between the two is very heavy. The mother appears and warns that his brother is already on the way, asking him to wait. During dinner, the father asks the other son about resident life. The younger brother defends the other, telling the father not to pressure him so much. But the older one says that it is fine, since the father is only speaking from his own experience. The mother tries to ease the mood, saying that she is happy to have at least the older son there. She then changes the subject and asks how Duyan has been doing lately. He answers awkwardly that he is getting by, while the father stares at him with disdain. It is explained to us that he ran away from home 3 years ago, and does not feel he has the right to return. After eating, he prepares to leave, but his brother questions him. He makes up an excuse, saying that he is going to a convenience store nearby. The brother then confronts him, saying that 3 years have already passed and it is time to mature. Irritated, he says that this is none of his brother's business, and that he will handle it on his own. He leaves, slamming the door, leaving a horrible atmosphere behind in the apartment. Already far from there, he sees the message he sent to Hayan's father, but with no reply. The young man runs out of the building, determined to resolve things on his own. The scene changes, and we see him buying a shovel at some random hardware store. He thinks about the expenses, and laments that he might have to eat instant noodles all month. With the shovel in the car, he drives down the road, following his risky plan. It is explained to us that the game's LP can be used to buy items in the shop. One of those items was a magnifying glass, which allowed checking information about the target. Sitting at the motel, he decides to use the item to try to get some useful clue. The next day, he follows the GPS, which warns him that he has arrived at his destination. He stops the car in front of an abandoned warehouse, exactly as Hayan described. The young man gets out with the shovel in hand, confirming that there were 3 warehouses nearby. He checked old photos and that was the only place with containers 2 years ago. But now the problem was another, because the game only gave a photo of a tree as a clue. He resigns himself, thinking that it is better to have a clue than to have nothing. The sun begins to set, and the young man realizes that time is passing far too fast. He feels exhausted just thinking about searching, finding the task almost impossible. The young man stares at the forest, wondering how to find a tree with a hole there. He starts walking through the woods, thinking about whether he really needs to find that. Tired, he decides that maybe it is better to just convince Hayan's family. But while thinking about this, he ends up tripping and rolling downhill in the forest. Lying on the ground, he complains that he needs to exercise, because his legs are trembling. He then has a vision of Hayan crying, asking why he does not save her. Lying on the grass, he wonders what the hell he is doing there, taking such a risk. The young man starts walking through the dark forest, questioning why he is going so far. He thinks that he has bills to pay, and that he does not have time for this madness. Even so, he starts digging, trying to find something in that place. He digs angrily, thinking that she is just someone he met 2 days ago. The young man keeps digging, thinking that there must be other ways to delete the game. He finally understands the reason he went so far for her, and starts digging. The young man keeps digging, without knowing what he will find there in the middle of the woods. He just did not want her to cry alone, and that is why he tried so hard to help. Suddenly he hears a voice calling him, and looks back completely frightened. It was Hayan, who appears in the forest with a clean and healthy appearance. He is shocked by the change and asks what happened to her appearance. She explains that she woke up and simply returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The girl jokes that he is the one who looks like a mess, all dirty and disheveled in the middle of the woods. Worried, she approaches and asks if something happened, but he brushes it off immediately. She looks at the hole he dug and realizes that there is something inside it. The young man feels awkward, but the girl understands right away that it was he who found her. She explains that she found it strange because she always woke up in the forest near the road. Hayan says that it is okay and asks him not to make that sad face. The girl touches his face and asks if it was not his fault, trying to comfort him. She asks him not to cry, but the young man feels powerless with the whole situation. The police arrive and isolate the area, starting to investigate the crime scene. A police officer approaches, asking if he was the first person to report the case. A detective introduces himself and asks to ask a few questions about what he saw. The man says that he just returned from the scene and that he has many questions to ask. He questions the story, finding it strange that the young man dug by chance and found a body. The detective says that as a professional, it is difficult to believe in that coincidence. He pressures the young man, asking why he went to the mountain with a shovel. The man suggests that perhaps he committed the crime and regretted it later. Doyen tries to defend himself, saying that he only did that because he felt bad for Hayan. The detective is surprised and asks if the victim told him her name. The young man thinks about showing the game, but knows that the detective would only think him crazy. Hayan's soul appears, trying to defend Doyen, but no one sees her. Suddenly a man runs toward them, shouting that his daughter is there. Hayan is shocked to realize that the man is her father, whom she had been searching for so long. The father shows his phone and asks if it was Doyen who contacted him. The scene returns to the call, where Doyen warns that he found the body and that she wants to see her father. Desperate, the father grabs him by the collar and demands to know where his daughter is right now. The young man tries to explain that she is right there beside him, but stops in the middle of the sentence. At that moment, the detective approaches, explaining that the victim's identity has not yet been confirmed. The police officer warns that access to the scene is restricted, leaving Doyen even more tense. Suddenly, the hand of Hayan's ghost grips the sleeve of his shirt tightly. In spirit, she cries and tries to call out to her father, but he cannot hear her, of course. A flashback shows how she wandered alone for 2 long years, completely lost. She could not rest because she believed that her family was still searching for her non-stop. The girl panics, wondering what she will do if not even her father can see her. She screams desperately because she does not want to be left alone again, no matter what. The game warns that her attachment has grown stronger, and Doyen holds the girl's hand. With a serious look, he confirms to the detective that she is still right there in that place. He then faces the officer and asks if he wanted to know whether the victim spoke to him. Then he begins to tell that the dead woman appeared to him in the middle of the road. He explains that he had never seen a ghost, and that is why he tried to run away instead of helping. But he says that the girl was crying, begging him not to leave her alone there. It is then that he reveals her name, saying that it is Hayan, which shocks everyone. He says that he came to help, but does not know how to make them believe him. Then he simply tells the truth, explaining that it seems he can see dead people. The father then looks at him and asks if his daughter is really there at that moment. The young man confirms with a smile, saying that she is right there right now. The father then says he will be right back and goes to the car to get something important. He returns from the car holding a stuffed animal, leaving Doyen quite confused. He explains that his daughter loved the toy and that he has carried it since she disappeared. Then he challenges him, asking him to ask her what the name of that toy was. The toy shines in front of him while the father waits anxiously for the answer. The spirit of the toy appears beside him and Doyen reveals that its name is Manya. He confirms that she said Manya while the girl hugs the stuffed animal. The scene then changes to the police station, indicating that the story was taken seriously. At the station, the young man gives his statement explaining the bizarre story to the officer. As he leaves, he feels relieved, because the pressure inside was almost suffocating him. In the parking lot, Hayan says goodbye to him, very happy to finally reunite with her family. The girl's father thanks him, saying that he will repay the favor for having helped his daughter. He laments because she was a hard-working girl who only suffered in life and never had peace. Crying, the father asks what will happen to her now, leaving the young man without knowing what to say. Dian then says that Hayan wants to pass on a message and asks if he is okay to hear it. She says that she just wanted to say one last goodbye so that her father would not keep searching for her. The girl is happy that he moved on and that thinking of her from time to time is already enough. With a smile, she thanks him and says that she was happy to have been his daughter, moving him deeply. With tears in her eyes, she asks if she could be born as his daughter again in the next life. The father squeezes the toy tightly and cries, calling out the name of his beloved daughter. And with a radiant smile, the girl repeats that she was very happy to have been his daughter. Sitting alone on the bench, a game notification suddenly appears on his phone. The notice says that her soul is free and that the choice to stay with her is entirely his. The young man stands up and calls her by name, but the girl seems to have disappeared for good. The game warns that he may regret it, and the stuffed animal falls to the ground lifeless. She then looks at him and asks what he should do now, leaving the young man very thoughtful. The game suggests that he ask her out while she cries, saying that she does not want to leave like this. He stays silent for a moment, not really knowing what he was thinking of doing. Then he reminds her of the promise that he would invite her to his home when everything was over. He says that they need to catch the culprit and that for that he will still need a lot of her help. With a smile, he invites her to go to his home since she also did not want to leave. Her father does not understand anything while Dian wonders if he acted on impulse. But the girl accepts right away because she did not want their farewell to be like that. Climbing the stairs, he worries about the house, but she says that it is all right. The two arrive at the apartment door and he invites her in with a bit of embarrassment. She enters and is surprised, saying that the place is much cleaner than she expected. With a smile, Hayan says that she is eager to live with him, bringing everything to a beginning. The scene changes and we are explained what a poltergeist is, a ghost that moves objects. He pushes her against a door, asking her to hold on a little longer through the impact. After a lot of effort, she manages to open the door and she celebrates with a relieved smile. She is thrown against the closet door and he shouts, asking if she is okay. But the girl boasts proudly, saying that it was she who managed to open the door. She explains that she can try to help, but he thinks that ghosts usually pass through walls. He tells her not to worry because their limit seems to be only temporary anyway. Even so, she wants to help in some way because she knows that he only eats instant noodles. He thanks her for the intention but still thinks that it is better to be a little careful. The girl agrees with a serious look while he asks her not to exaggerate the force. He then warns that if she needs anything, she can just ask him at any time. Dian says that she does not need to feel like a burden because only he can see her and help her. With that, he assures that if there is any problem, they will solve it little by little together. She gets all shy because she realizes that they will stay together from now on. The girl thinks about it and realizes that in practice this is almost like living together, right? We are explained that since they found the body, she has not returned to that road anymore. He thinks that now she no longer disappears during the day and can walk around without worrying. Her father insisted on giving some money, saying that he could not accept the help for free. Sitting in the kitchen, he thinks that at least now he can take a breath and relax a bit. He is still worried about the game, but for now there is no new news about it. But what weighs the most now are the bills because the month's budget is already in the red. With a yawn, he thinks that he needs to go back to the station and work double on the streams. He then says that he needs to rest for the stream and asks what Hayan is going to do. With a smile, she suggests that the two of them sleep now, leaving the young man a bit embarrassed. But he grabs a blanket, saying that he will sleep in the kitchen and that she can stay in the bed. He turns off the light and says that it is all right, wishing a good night to his new guest. The girl notices that he left the door a little open and wonders if it was on purpose. Lying on the bed, she feels comfortable with the smell and the organization of his house. A flashback begins, showing her talking with her friends about a boyfriend. A friend asks how she is doing and how it went with the older guy she liked. But she reveals that she turned him down because she thought the two were not very compatible. The friends do not believe it because the guy was handsome and seemed to have good money. She then makes up an excuse, saying that she needed to study and work a lot. She wanted to do many things like travel and date, but life did not allow it. With that, she focused on work, believing that one day her effort would be worth it. Back to the present, she thinks that everything was in vain and that she should have enjoyed more. She wonders about the graduation album, thinking about all the memories she left behind. She then approaches and calls him, realizing that he is the only one who can take her out of there. In the flashback, a friend asks what kind of guy she prefers to date. She says that she likes a kind of nerdy guy, leaving the friends quite confused by the answer. Then she describes the perfect man, someone gentle and innocent who is only nice to her. The friends laugh, saying that it would be easier to find a unicorn than a guy like that. But in the present, she realizes that she ended up finding exactly the kind of person she wanted. She watches him sleep, thinking that he looks much better like that and thanking him for saving her. But the girl feels bad, because she thinks that she is just being a burden and receiving help. Thinking about how to repay him, she touches his chest and is startled by her own impulse. Suddenly, he pulls her into the bed and hugs her, leaving her completely shocked by the situation. She gets all embarrassed and tries to leave, but he holds her hand tightly while sleeping. The young man then starts talking in his sleep, begging someone please not to abandon him. At that moment, he calls another name, leaving Hayan surprised and somewhat confused by that. The scene changes to a stream where he plays a romance game and consoles a character. We see that it is a dating simulator where the objective is to win over the girl. He gets emotional with the scene and even cries while the chat makes fun of his reaction. But the young man denies that he was crying and the chat asks about the horror game he promised. He explains that it is good to vary, and a viewer donates money mocking the whole situation. At that, Doyun thanks the donation and laughs, while Hayan watches everything with a smile. He leans back in the chair saying that they still have not had time to really get to know each other. She then wonders who the girl he called was, and what kind of person he used to be. She grows thoughtful about the name she heard, while Doyun ends the day's stream. He asks if he made too much noise, but she denies it and says that she found the stream fun. The girl then teases him, asking if he really cried, but he denies it right away. He warns that he will need to edit until late, but she assures him that she will stay very quiet. With a smile, he says that she does not need to worry, because he can manage on his own. He suggests going out to get some fresh air, but she refuses, saying that it is fine right there. The young man insists, explaining that he is feeling kind of suffocated and asks if she will not go with him. With a smile, she finally agrees and says that there is a place she does want to see. She reveals that she wants to see the sea at night because it was one of the wishes on her life list. He agrees right away and suggests looking for a nearby beach, but his phone beeps. The game then gives options, considering that his time and money are very tight. He stares at the phone, remembering that he needs to choose the best option to win over the target. But he thinks that the target has already died and that if he makes a mistake he could end up being killed too. He knows that a normal game gives you options, but that is not a game, it is reality. At that moment she calls him by name, waiting for him to finally make a decision about the outing. The young man apologizes, saying that he was just thinking a bit, and she asks what happened. He covers it up, saying that he was thinking about the place, while she feels relieved that it is nothing serious. Then he decides to test something different and calls the girl to give her own suggestion. He explains that going to the sea is kind of complicated and suggests going to a nearby reservoir. At that moment he is shocked by what he said, and the game warns that it will reevaluate his choice. He tries to correct himself, but the game warns that the next option will have a penalty. The girl looks at him for a moment and seems a little disappointed with the suggestion. But she smiles and says that the reservoir is fine, and the game warns that the affection decreased. Already at the place, she is enchanted by the view, thinking the place is very beautiful at night. With a smile, she confesses that the place ended up being better than she expected. He apologizes for it not being the beach, but she says that just being there is already good. The girl then suggests that they walk a little more since they are there with nothing to do. He feels relieved that it worked out, but wonders if that really is a game. Staring at the lake, he thinks about the future and about what will happen when the game ends. At that moment she asks his age and finds out that he is 24 years old, being older. She says that she was 22, so technically the two of them are almost the same age now. He says that maybe it is better to keep things as they are, so it does not get awkward. Then he takes the opportunity to ask what she did, since they do not know much about each other. He guesses that she was a student, and the girl is surprised by the accurate guess. She boasts, saying that she was a scholarship student, but he says that she does not look like it. He tries to fix it, saying that her atmosphere did not match the stereotype. The young man says that it is because she is very beautiful, leaving the girl embarrassed by the compliment. She then teases him, asking if he went around charming girls with that talk. At that moment she corners him and asks if it was him who hugged her the night before. He turns completely red and stutters, saying that he was just talking while sleeping. She laughs and says that his face is red again, and he asks her to stop that. The two remain silent for a while, admiring the night view of the reservoir. And even with her appearing out of nowhere, he realizes that he feels good and calm with her. The girl also seems to feel the same, enjoying the company and the feeling of relief. He takes the phone, recording the moment and enjoying the joy of being with someone. The game warns that her affection increased, and he thinks that downloading the game was not so bad. The girl then says that she wants to ask something, and the young man agrees right away, but then she hesitates a little, saying that it is nothing very serious. You know. Then she says the name she saw in the album, and the mood changes completely with the question. He is in total shock with the revelation, not understanding what the hell is going on. At that moment he looks around and realizes that she disappeared, and starts calling for her desperately. The young man panics, wondering if she simply ran off to the road again. Suddenly his phone beeps, warning that a new combination was successfully made. The game says that the affection level is despair, and a sinister creature emerges from the shadows. A bizarre monster emerges from below, while he screams completely terrified. We see a headless body approaching, and the deadly game seems to have just begun. He stares at the horrifying scene, realizing that the creature's head is moving on its own. In the blink of an eye, the body attacks him with everything, and his phone ends up flying away. Hayan asks, worried if he is feeling well. She shakes him and asks him to calm down, saying that she is right there by his side now. The girl grabs Duyan desperately, asking what is happening and asking him to look at her. At that moment Hayan notices something strange and is shocked, not understanding the situation very well. He then looks behind her with pure terror, completely ignoring the girl's call. In the distance, he sees a bizarre figure crawling and wonders if it is another character. Duyan then decides that he will try to talk, just like he did with Hayan before. But the creature only emits a strange sound, slowly approaching him along the ground. Even with fear he prepares himself to act, keeping his focus on the thing in front of him. But then out of nowhere the ghost flies at him, attacking his arm with everything. Without thinking twice, the protagonist turns around and starts running desperately up the stairs. The phone then beeps with a new option, telling him to just flee from there. He panics, thinking that this is too much for a coward like him to endure. Duyan remembers that he can leave the date, and decides to flee to find Hayan later. But in the rush to escape he ends up tripping badly and rolling down the stairs. With that, a game notification appears, warning that her affection decreased a lot. The affection level changes from despair to hatred, leaving the creature even more furious. A game message warns him to leave immediately, while the creature crawls. Duyan tries to calm her, apologizing and saying that he is very scared. But as he tries to get up, his foot is grabbed and he is pulled back forcefully. In panic he kicks the monster's face, screaming for the creature to back away. The tentacles then grab him and hurl him off the platform with full force. He falls straight into the water with a huge noise, sinking quickly into the darkness. The scene changes to Saka, who is being drowned by a mysterious hand underwater. The young man begs to be released, but the creature squeezes his face even harder. The view returns to Duyan, who now thrashes alone, trying not to drown. His instinct makes him try to breathe, even though he knows he is surrounded by water. The pain of water invading his lungs is terrible, and he only wishes to die. With his body already out of strength, he is left only praying for everything to end soon. Then the system warns that he has died and his soul begins to dissipate into the air. Suddenly Duyan comes back to life on the stairs, coughing and gasping desperately for breath. He looks at his hand, remembering that he thought it would be easy to stay with Hayan. Crying, he realizes that it was an arrogant thought, because the game is far more complex. He stares at the head on the ground and finally understands the situation, becoming completely terrified by it. This means that other characters can appear at any moment, complicating things even more. He clenches the phone and wonders why this is happening, remembering the horrible deaths. Duyan questions whether it was wrong to install the game, while the system summarizes his last failure. Then, new options appear on the screen, giving him some difficult choices to make now. He thinks that running away again will not help, so he decides that the best thing is to try to communicate. But then he hesitates about whether he should talk to the head or to the body first. Carefully, he approaches, saying that he is not suspicious, and chooses the option to talk. With a forced smile, he asks if she needs help, even without knowing anything. The head remains still, and he realizes that he needs to calm her before anything else. Duyan begs her to say something, but the creature can only mutter in anger. Even seeing the blood dripping, he keeps calm and continues trying to approach. At that, he asks if she wants to talk, and if he can remove the tape from her mouth. He removes the tape and asks if she is okay, but the head starts shaking on the ground. The phone beeps again, offering the chance to flee or to wait a little longer. One option suggests putting the head back, and he wonders if he is already becoming insensitive. He looks at the mortal remains, thinking that perhaps curiosity is overcoming his fear. Then, he holds the head and wonders what story left her in this state of anguish. With the head in his hands, he walks to the body, wanting to know why she haunts the place. He then connects the head to the neck, and the game warns that her affection increased greatly. With that, the girl's state stabilizes and her body begins to rebuild itself with a light. Already with a normal appearance, she finally manages to speak and starts asking something of him. The girl begs him to take her out of there, and the midnight date is concluded. The scene changes to sunrise, with Duyan standing silently observing the landscape. At that, the system measures his score, giving 80 points with a death penalty. His final romantic rank ends up as B-, and he stares at the result on the phone. Despite the discomfort he still feels, the second date with her has finally come to an end. But meanwhile, Hayan seemed very sad while holding his jacket. Back to Hayan's perspective, she sees him fallen on the ground. Hayan calls him by name, looking at him with a somewhat confused expression. She approaches worried, asking what is wrong, and asks him to calm down. Her hand ends up passing through him. The girl is left in shock, not understanding what was happening. She tries to call him again, but Doyen keeps talking to nothing beside him. He then repeats the same lines as before, and Hayan realizes that the conversation is not with her. She questions who he is talking to, and whether that black thing is another kind of ghost. At that moment, it finally sinks in, because she is dead while Doyen is still alive. In her memories, she recalls that over time, she was losing her sense of self. The girl just wandered along the road instinctively, without a clear direction to follow. It was during this dark period that someone finally appeared and reached out a hand to her. That person was Doyen, and she remembers that it was very fun being with him. The ghost felt very grateful for having someone there with her after so long. She felt so supported that she even reached the point of hating herself for being a burden to him. Even after finding her family, she still wanted to stay a little longer by his side. Hayan panics, wondering if he can no longer see her and thinking everything is very sudden. She does not want to say goodbye without saying anything, feeling that she needs to do something now. With one last hope, the girl looks back and shouts Doyen's name. But he has his back to her, staring at a giant and frightening shadow in front of him. The girl is shocked by the creature, wondering what the hell that is. At that, she shouts for him to wait, warning that it looks very dangerous for him. She calls him again, but Doyen simply stops in front of the monster. Suddenly, she wonders if she is not similar to that being, since she is also a ghost. Hayan then questions whether she should really be by his side, not knowing what to do. But with her bangs covering her eyes, she affirms to herself that she already knows the truth. Alone in the darkness, the girl admits that she knows she is being very greedy. Then, a strong light appears and Doyen finally calls her, pulling her out of her thoughts. The scene changes to sunrise, with the two now together and safe on the platform. He holds her worriedly, asking where she went and saying that he thought she had disappeared. Doyen notices that she is crying, but she thinks that it is dangerous and that she already knew that. She thinks that this should not be happening, but admits that she is being greedy. At that, Hayan looks at him and asks if he is not afraid of her, since she is a ghost. Doyen is a bit confused by her sudden question, but he soon says that he actually felt more afraid when she was not nearby. The girl is left speechless by the answer, and he asks if he should have felt afraid. She then steps back nervously, questioning whether she can really stay by the side of someone alive. Hayan says that if she is a burden, she can handle things on her own without causing trouble. But the protagonist interrupts her, stating that in fact he is the one who needs her. He explains that he cannot give details, but he needs her help with his ghostly problems. With a sincere smile, Doyen extends his hand to her, showing that they can help each other. He suggests that they talk on the way back, and she finally agrees to hold his hand. She then wonders if for now it is not a problem to be a little more greedy. The two leave the platform together, while a cute otter watches the scene from afar. The scene changes to a car traveling down an empty road during sunset. Inside the vehicle, Hayan looks at him and prepares to finally start the conversation. Doyen confirms the story to her and asks if she also saw the headless woman. The girl replies that she did see her, but could not make out any important details. She explains that the thing looked like just a shadow and that he was trying to calm her. At that, Hayan asks if he is not afraid, but he says that he does get scared too. She is surprised by the answer because for him it is natural to feel fear in those situations. He then describes the terror of seeing a head crawling and a body following it. Doyen admits that seeing her again was a relief because her disappearance was frightening. The girl then changes the subject, asking what kind of help he needs from her. He is a bit embarrassed, saying that it is a little difficult to explain at the moment, but she insists and he promises that he will tell her later when he has a better chance. Hayan remembers the woman's body, which had several wounds and the head separated. She thinks that it looks like a murder, and that getting involved can be very dangerous. Even so, she decides that she cannot simply turn her back on someone who asked for help. Doyen reflects in silence, thinking that he can barely take care of his own life right now. She notices that he is thoughtful, and asks if it is because of the person from before. Hayan says that he is too kind and that this stubbornness can end up hurting him. He is surprised by the comment, and she confirms by saying that no one would care that much. The girl advises him to take better care of himself, because he does not have to do what he does not want. She smiles, saying that it may seem strange, but it was his kindness that saved her. She asks him not to carry everything alone, and that he can run away if it gets difficult. But he thinks that if he can save someone even with fear, then it is worth trying. Upon arriving home, Doyen finds a very unpleasant surprise waiting for him at the door. The landlady warns him that she will raise the rent because the prices of everything have gone up. Doyen is shocked by the amount, thinking everything is very expensive and far too sudden for him. The woman then warns that if he does not pay, he will have to look for another place to live. He asks for a little more time, and she ends up giving in for this month, unwillingly. But before leaving, she advises him to get a decent job and still criticizes the internet. Already inside the house, Hayan becomes indignant, calling the woman's attitude bullying. Almost crying, he asks Hayan what they should do about this news. He looks around his little corner, thinking that this way he might end up being evicted. He contacts a studio to pick up some video editing jobs. Hayan watches him, silently thanking him for trying so hard. She suggests that he contact her father, but he refuses, saying that it is his responsibility. Doyeon says that it is fine because he has always managed somehow until now. He then says that he will step out quickly to go to the convenience store, leaving her alone. The girl watches the door close, thinking that she feels completely useless to help. Already at the store, Doyeon takes advantage of a buy 2 get 3 promotion to save money. He pays the 8,500 won at the counter, takes the change and leaves the store right after. On the street, he checks his phone and sees that he will manage this month, barely. Looking at the groceries, he thinks that at least Hayan does not need to worry about food. He opens his mother's contact, wondering if he should ask for help just this once. A memory surfaces showing his mother confronting him in front of the police and other people. Young Doyeon begs her to leave his friend alone, feeling embarrassed. Back in the present, he watches the rain fall and gives up on calling his mother. He thinks that he cannot ask for help now and that he still has to go to the police station tomorrow. He checks his phone and sees a new date but decides to deal with one thing at a time. Doyeon calms himself, thinking that he has always managed on his own and that he can find a side job if needed. The scene changes to his room with him gaming and viewers complaining about his performance. Hayan notices on the clock that it is already 9 at night, starting to feel a bit apprehensive. She curls up on the bed, worried about whether he is okay since he did not sleep and the live stream is coming. But he convinces himself that it is not a lack of skill, remembering that he was a good student. With a tired face, he says that he is just not having a good day and decides to stop for now. Seeing the situation, Hayan gets up and silently goes to the door of his room. She realizes that he is surviving on instant noodles and that at this pace he will collapse. Then the girl thinks that if she could touch things, she could help somehow. At that, she concentrates and moves closer to the kitchen, looking at a pot on the stove. When she tries to touch the spatula, she gets a strong shock and screams in pain from the impact. But to her surprise, the pot starts to levitate by itself right in front of her. She realizes that she managed to touch something, wondering if Doyeon heard the noise. With her new ability, the girl manages to move the object. She tests her new ability with a doll, wondering if weight influences anything. But the girl realizes that if she were alive, she might have been able to help Doyeon much more. With that, she regains her composure and tells herself that she will manage to practice more. The scene changes to the past, where a friend asks Sakia if he managed to talk to Sungjae. Sakia replies that he does not know, because he tried calling and visiting but did not find him at all. Since then, he has been trying to make contact without any response, and now can only hope for the best. Back in the present, the chat talks about a body found, and Doyeon is shocked by the news. One of the viewers comments that a ghost appeared and told where the person died, making him tense. He then sees the news on TV, which confirms the story of the body found in the mountain. Shocked, Doyeon reads the comments where people doubt the ghost's story. He keeps researching and sees that several news outlets are talking about the same bizarre case. The protagonist starts to wonder what is happening with all these strange news. He remembers that he was interrogated for an hour and that none of this was mentioned at the police station. In the chat, people ask if he is okay, but he can only think about the investigation. Fear takes over and he wonders if he will be unjustly accused and have his life exposed. He wonders if people would believe the truth and what would happen if everything were real. Suddenly, the stuffed animal comes to life and calls Doyeon, showing him a spoon. She runs up to him all excited, shouting that she managed to possess the Manhwa doll. Doyeon turns and stares at the doll while the live chat goes crazy with the scene. At that, the webcam keeps recording everything, focusing on the doll's face that now has life. But the doll trips and falls to the floor, making the chat think it is just a prank. Desperate, he shouts that something urgent happened and ends the stream immediately. With the live now off, the plush asks what they are going to do, thinking that she ruined everything. She sincerely apologizes, saying that she did not want this to happen and only wanted to help. But then Doyeon starts to laugh and picks up the plush, saying that she is very funny. He realizes that he was sinking into problems but had an ally the whole time. With a clearer mind, he asks if he can consult her about a small problem. She agrees immediately, and he thinks about how long it has been since he asked anyone for help. The scene changes to them in the rain and he asks if she is okay, now more at ease. He then decides that he cannot ignore a request for help because he feels very worried. Doyeon says that she can wait at home, but the girl moves closer to him with a smile. She leans on his shoulder, saying that she does not want to get wet at all. At that, Hayan suggests that they sit somewhere, leaving the guy a bit embarrassed. He gets very embarrassed by the proposal but ends up agreeing to go with her. As they walk in the rain, she asks if the ghost he is going to meet is pretty. The scene then shifts to a rich man who watches the city from his luxury apartment. Someone knocks on the door and the mysterious man tells the person to come in without even looking back. A subordinate enters the room and confirms that he has already investigated what the boss had requested. He begins the report by talking about Choi Dion, an unknown 24-year-old streamer. The guy explains that he found the body, claiming that a ghost guided him to the location. And to make the situation worse, some witnesses said that they saw a doll flying in front of them. The boss questions the flying doll and the servant confirms that everyone saw the scene. He then wonders if the woman became a ghost at that exact moment of the incident. Curious, he orders an invitation to be delivered to that friend and asks him to show up there. Back in the car, Hayan says that the rainy day reminds her of the first time they met. She admits that she thought it was a dream, but it was him who saved her when she was at her limit. With a smile, she says that the other ghost must also need a lot of help. Dion just asks her not to exaggerate, keeping his focus on the road ahead. He says that he feels lucky that she was the first ghost he encountered. Hayan says that now she would feel an enormous emptiness if he were not with her, but she insists again on the question, wanting to know if the other ghost was pretty. With a serious look, she stares at him and asks again, making him extremely nervous. He then shouts that Hayan is the most beautiful person he has ever seen in his life. The game notifies that her favorability increased, and she smiles, saying that she will believe it. He feels relieved by the response and, now calmer, manages to organize his thoughts. Doyeon decides that if things get worse, he will ask her father for help, who agreed to assist. His priority now is to catch the culprit, and for that he can use the game items. He looks at his points, thinking that with a magnifying glass he can discover the target's desires. With a plan in mind, Doyeon realizes that even a livestream can turn into publicity in his favor. Finally, they arrive at the destination and he reassures her, telling her not to worry. The GPS warns that the route has ended and he encourages himself, thinking that he is good at games. At that, Hayan firmly holds his arm, showing that she is there to support him. She asks if he is okay and suggests going back, but he assures her that everything is fine. Very nervous, he says that he thinks he can do it, since he even practiced in a simulation before. The girl looks at him with a gentle gaze because she knows how much he has been suffering with everything. She understands how tormenting it must be for him to have to go through this situation. Even so, the ghost feels horrible and hopes that he does not feel bad. But Doyeon fills himself with courage, thinking that now he needs to be more confident. Hayan encourages him to help the girl because if they go back he will remain worried. Suddenly, a lightning bolt cuts across the sky and she wonders if it would be better for them to go back. With his gaze focused, he stares at the dark and rainy path ahead of him. Then the phone beeps, notifying that the second midnight encounter has officially begun. He keeps walking alone across the bridge, feeling the rain fall heavily on him. At that, he remembers reading that the energy of a strong ghost overshadows the weaker one. Her favorability is normal, and he promises himself that he will not run away. He sees the figure in the distance and decides that he needs to gather information by talking to her. At that, Doyeon approaches with the umbrella and greets her in a very nervous way. With eyes full of water, he asks if she remembers because they met yesterday. He says that she seemed to need help, and the system notifies that the encounter has begun. But the creature does not respond at all, leaving our protagonist not knowing what to do. The whole situation feels like a deja vu, and he wonders if ghosts are kind of slow. Doyeon finds it strange that no option appeared and that the free encounter is still going on. So he takes a deep breath, deciding to calm down and just start a conversation with her. But then it hits him and he asks the most important thing, wanting to know where her head is. He remembers that before she appeared together, and without the head there is no way to talk, right? With an awkward expression, he stands there waiting for some reaction from the body. Then he asks again more directly if her head did not come along. The creature then points into the distance and drops something from her bloody hand onto the ground. He finally sees the head further ahead and says that she must remember him. Doyeon approaches, saying that he would like to hear her situation and talk a bit. But the head runs away from there, leaving Doyeon completely confused by the situation. He wonders if she did not hear his voice, while the head hides behind a pillar. Not knowing what to do, he asks the headless body to hold the umbrella for a bit. But then both parts of the body run away and he tries to call out to them. He realizes that they are avoiding him and starts to question if he did something wrong. The head then throws itself into the water and he does not understand the reason for all of that. Frustrated, he wonders why they are running away if he did nothing wrong. At that moment, the system beeps with a new option explaining what might be happening. Doyeon decides not to pressure her and chooses the safe option, but the penalty is activated. The options are updated and he is shocked by the new alternatives that appeared. He wonders what kind of options these are, remembering a tense moment with Hayan. Desperate, he notices that all the choices are terrible and have no common sense at all. Time is running out and he realizes that he does not have much choice other than to act. He can only choose the lesser of the evils and approaches the head and the body. Doyeon warns that this is the last chance and the body grabs the head and turns toward him. He then threatens to take her body away if she does not want to come with him now. With that, he chooses option D and with a villain-like expression thinks that it will not be so bad. The head then appears between the bars, staring straight at him with an empty gaze. If you want a continuation, don't forget to leave a like and comment part 2 so we know you enjoyed it. That said, see you in the next video.